Hey, welcome back. My name is Jeff Harrison, and my lovely co-host who's wearing lipstick today, Leslie's for. Hey, Leslie, how you doing?
Hi. I'm doing good. Oh my goodness.
I
I
read
know.
your
I was telling you that somebody watched our podcast and they watched it backwards. They watched episode 30, right? And then they went and watched episode 1 and pointed out to me that in 30 I had lipstick on and in episode 1 I did not. And I don't recall that. So
I'm so glad they mentioned that I was wearing lipstick in episode 1 and it wasn't in 30. So we're
I
in good
know.
shape. Yeah.
I know. You're always trying to copy me, I swear.
I use chapstick, but I don't do lipstick.
Do you use color chapstick though?
I don't.
Okay.
I didn't know there was such a thing. But anyway, hey, you know what, Leslie? We had a first of all, welcome to the Twisted, Bent, and Exhausted Entrepreneur podcast. And this is like episode 30 something. Yeah. And we were talking off air before we started. And I said, these are things we need to talk about because this is the reality of being an entrepreneur. And right. I want to roll this back a little bit. And you were talking about some things you're doing. And, yes, I can get caught up in the automation and the technical and, all this kind of stuff. But you did something that I think is, I'm going to call it kind of like guerrilla marketing that sometimes we forget about. And I want you to tell us, whenever you're listening to this, it was her last night. She did something last night. Tell us about that. And let's unpack that a bit.
Well, I went to a CDAR mixer, which is CDAR is the California Desert Association of Realtors, of which I am an affiliate. And this is only my second time going. I don't think they started that long ago. They no longer have that many in-person meetings. They do these mixers to give the affiliates an opportunity to meet with the real estate agents because, they're a challenging group they're super nice, but to try to get to work with them can be a bit of a challenge. And while I was there, I always set a goal for these mixers of when I'm networking of like 3 leads, and then I just have fun because otherwise it becomes a grind to go to these things. You just cannot push that hard, So I picked up right away 2 opportunities for speaking engagements to do the same presentation I did for BNI yesterday, about how we work with real estate agents. And a possible relationship with a real estate agent who's new in the desert, who does long-term rentals. And he doesn't know who to call out here, for services when the rentals need, when they're doing a turn on the rental because somebody moved out, somebody moved in, who does he call to fix this or do that or whatever? So we can be that resource for him. So I recommended that. So we're going to get together on that too. And then and Art was there, so he's trying to get me into GPSR, the Greater Palm Springs Realtor Group. And then I met another lady who has a brokerage, and she's also the president of CDAR, and she wants to get me to speak at her group. So I think Windermere was one, and I'm working on Century 21 and several of them. So yeah, it was a very productive hour and a half. For sure.
Well, I want to kind of again, these are things that we talked about offline, and I've known Leslie for, said yesterday, almost 2 decades. I think we're closer to 2 decades than we are to a decade and a half. and you have this great mindset that, it sounds woo-woo, but the reality is there is science to back it up. And it's one of those things that I heard Simon Sinek the other day. If you don't know about Simon Sinek, you should look him up. And he says, your mind doesn't think in negatives. It tries to think in positive. And it's like saying like this, don't think about an elephant. And what does your mind do?
Thinks about an elephant.
So if you're thinking, I'm going to go to that CDAR meeting, I hope it's not a waste of time. What is it probably going to do?
Be a waste of time.
Because you planted that seed because it doesn't know the knot. It's almost like saying, hey, you are this laser beam, and wherever you focus it, that's what you see.
Right.
And so if you're thinking that, so when you started this out, you said, hey, I went there with the intention of
3 leads.
And how many did you get?
4.
Wow. How cool is that?
Right. And that happens to me at every mixer. Pretty much, because that's my intent. I go in with the goal of getting 3 to 4 leads, and then I want to just have fun. because, you just can't. You go to these things, like last night it was at the La Quinta Brewing Company, which turns out is a really nice place. I hadn't been there before.
Do they serve beer?
Oh yeah, they brew it right on site, and they also have nice a menu that's pretty nice. This is the one that was over on technology by the DMV over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On by cooking, Highway 1, or excuse me, the freeway?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
There's one in La Quinta too, I think, but this one is over here.
Shut down.
Oh, that's
yeah.
Oh,
yep.
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
So anyway, when you go to these things, if you say, I'm going to push for everybody I talk to, I'm going to try to get a lead, and you're kind of intense and desperate, that does not work. And it becomes a grind to do these networking events. It just gets exhausting. So for me, I just say, okay, I'm going to get 3, maybe 4 leads. I always pitch whoever I talk to, but I still also, I recognize people. I go up and say, hi, how are you doing? Ask about their families, whatever, just to build, that helps build that relationship. And it's more fun.
Yeah.
You're out for a couple hours on a weeknight. You might as well have some fun. I don't drink beer, but a lot of people were enjoying it. So, that's kind of my approach to going to those networking meetings. It isn't necessary to push so hard. Consistency in going is important. You need to go all the time. In fact, I have another one Thursday night for a different group. So, okay.
Well, I want to throw something out there that I think that is really important, and it's from the BNI group, and it's called Giver's Gain. And you are doing this, like you're showing up and you're giving before you're asking anything. How's your family? How's your business? You're asking about things that are important to them versus, hi, my name is Leslie, and by the way, I have this company called, and immediately you're like overwhelming them. And there's a psychological thing is we love to talk about ourselves. We love to hear ourselves talk.
That's a human thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And if we can ask questions to get them talking about themselves, what that does is it builds rapport. And rapport, of course, is like, hey, I'm kind of liking this person. There's something in common.
Yeah.
I want to know more about them. And all of a sudden it is a great way to do this. And I've got to be honest with you, straightforward. I don't attend a lot of these meetings because I feel like, oh, it's a waste of time. Everybody goes there for the drinks and the hors d'oeuvres. And I'm a little bit of a wallflower. I know it sounds crazy, but I'm a little bit of an introvert. So I'm very uncomfortable walking into a room that if I'm not on stage, I'm very uncomfortable. If I'm walking around the room and I don't know anybody, I would rather just go back to the car and go home. That's more productive.
So I didn't know that about you after all these years.
Yeah. So that's the productiveness. And because you've seen me on stage and
fantastic. Yeah.
But when I'm off the stage, unless I'm in a group of 3 to 5 people and I'm talking to them, it's a little uncomfortable for me. So anyway,
excuse me, I'm going to interrupt you as usual. So
I wouldn't have it any other way.
I'm also an introvert, believe it or not. Okay, I am an introvert, but I have trained my brain to know that when I go to these networking groups, it is not me. It is my work me. That's 2 different characters in my head, right?
I'm still schizophrenic.
No. Well, depends on who you ask. My husband might agree with that. But what I'm saying is that, for example, some people get so tied up with their identity being their business that when they get a rejection, they take it personally and it affects their self-worth. And it should never. If somebody's rejecting what you're offering them, whether it's a widget or a service, it's a rejection of that. It is not a rejection of you as a human being. And I counsel people all the time on how to separate those 2 things. So for me, when I go to these networking things, you just have to put that different persona on and be and part of the way I broke myself out of that I don't want to talk to anybody mode was I volunteered to be a what is it at the chamber they call it, the
greeter,
ambassador.
Okay.
An ambassador, which means you are supposed to walk around the room and talk to people and get them to get out of their little cliques and move around and network. And so after doing that for several years, that really helped. And now I have this mindset of, okay, I'm going in for this many leads. I'm a professional. I need the business, or I want the business. And so, and you know what, you got to remember that you're offering something that truly helps somebody else. Your automation that you do with AI is a huge, huge time saver. In fact, our next podcast is going to be about the content accelerator, which is, to me, a miraculous thing. So it's a huge time saver. And when you're offering something, I just had this conversation with somebody in one of my tiny challenges, one of my 5 days to freedom challenge, that she felt like she was pushing too hard to sell stuff. And I'm like, but you're offering them, we need to reframe that, because you're offering them something that helps them. So you're not selling, you're offering them support and help. And when she thought about it like that, she's like, oh, that makes sense, right? So earlier when we were off the air, you asked me, when I get these leads, do I have an automated workflow? Because your brain thinks automation every 2 seconds. And so I don't. And now I want one, because of course I know how automation works. I'm an automation person myself. And so I'm thinking, okay, now I need a landing page. Now I need a drip campaign. Now I need a QR code. Now I need all these things. And so you had some advice about that. What did you say?
Well, yeah, I want to kind of roll it back just for a second. I'll answer this question second.
Okay.
But when you were talking about, you're kind of like two different mindsets, you know, it's the personal you and the business you. And it reminds me back in the day, for those of you who didn't know, my former life, I was a golf professional, and being able to step on a tee box and get in or hit a shot, we call it pre-shot routine. So I could be talking to Leslie or somebody in a golf cart, but then there would be this point where it's like, I'm going to go into, forgive the example, I'm going to go on stage. So I have to get my mind ready for this. And it was a pre-shot routine. And it was, I could recognize somebody as somebody could recognize me a couple of fairways over, because we were so consistent with our pre-shot routine. And when we would see one of our the players we're playing with going to pre-shot routine, that was where we step back, like they're getting into their game, and vice versa. And so it makes me think, oh, Leslie, you just hit on something I think is important. I need a pre-shot routine. Like when I arrive at the place, I'm in the car, I need to have a pre-shot routine of who I need to be or how I need to act. So when I walk in there, this whole thing, and I just got a little tingly skin, is I no longer have that feeling of, oh, I'm an introvert. I feel out of place. People look at me like, oh, look at the geek over there in the corner, whatever. Right. And so it changes it. So I just want to say thank you.
You're the most glib person I know. I told you I'm going to get you a t-shirt that says Mr. Glib on it, because I don't care what you're talking about, folks. No matter what you're talking about, if you talk to Jeff, he comes up instantly with just the right words to market your business, to try to sell something, to whatever it is. He has the words. Oh, if he's interviewing you. We used to do that show years ago called X's and O's that's still on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I always wanted you with me on screen, because I could answer better when I had questions, right?
Yeah.
And you always knew the right questions to ask. So you should never be afraid to go out and do that. Just reframe your thinking like you're talking, and you'll be great. You always
appreciate that. I appreciate it.
Which now means you'll sign up. Wait a minute. So which means you'll sign up for the Rancho Mirage Expo, right?
Jeez, I'm not going to commit to that on air. Yeah. Again,
I'm hounding him about this.
That's a big group. I'm by myself, and
you're going to be next to me. I asked you to put you next to me. Okay. You'll be fine.
Yeah. Now that's even more pressure, because it's like saying, okay, I'm going to go to karaoke, and she sings like Taylor Swift, and I'm like,
I do not.
Yeah, I'm like not even a Swiftie. So anyway, she's an expert at that. But let's talk about the next piece, that automation piece.
Okay.
Yes. And I'll have to roll this back for a second, because many years ago when I first started getting into automation, I walked into this restaurant in the Palm Desert area, and we've all seen them. They have this fishbowl and says, drop your card in here, and we're going to give you away a free lunch or whatever. And it was packed with cards. And I just asked the guy, I said, let me ask you, who is the one that has to, first of all, I said, what do you do with these cards? And he says, well, I'll draw one and then I'll give the name. And I said, well, what do you do with all the other names? He says, well, ideally we'd want to put them in our email database. I said, how's that going for you? He says, it just takes too long. And I'm like, why don't you just automate that? And he's like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I said,
Mhm.
instead of putting a fishbowl up there, how about everybody just scan the QR code and put their information in, and now it immediately goes into your database, and then you have an automated program that can spin those names and give you a winner. He's like, oh my God. I said, because here's the thing. You're the owner of the company. You are the highest paid, most valuable person, and you're doing the least valuable stuff of saying, I'm taking that $100 an hour person and I'm putting data into a box. And most of the time he said, well, first of all, to be honest with you, I've got bags of these cards in my back room that I haven't even touched. And so when I think about this, I'm like, well, why don't we think, how can we do this from the very beginning? And I started using QR codes a long time ago, Leslie, where somebody said, well, how can I get in touch with it? Just scan my QR code. As soon as they scan that, it then opens up on their phone and puts their name and email address in there, which goes right into my database. And then it goes right into a follow-up campaign.
Now I want that for the 3 expos I'm signed up to do.
And somebody said, well, Jeff, you don't even have your business card with a phone number on it. I don't want it to. If you're serious, I want you to scan the code and fill it out. That's all I want you to do. If you're not serious and you just want me to spend more money on printing, no, scan my card and move on. And now it's like, at the end of the day, if I get 5 or 10 more people, I feel they're more serious and I know they're going to be taken care of. So with you, it's like, think about the services you have. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's 2 or 3 services. Like I know you have executive errands, right, for your absentee homeownership, and then you have the handyman service, right? Yeah, handyman service, and then you have the 5-Day Freedom Challenge. Well, wouldn't it be cool if on your phone you have 3 different apps, and somebody says, and you realize they would love to do the 5-Day Freedom Challenge, which is free, by the way. It's like 5 days. 45 minutes to an hour each time. It's like, and it's no cost. Your investment is your time. And it is truly, and I'm not trying to blow smoke up anybody's skirt. You're with somebody who has so much in the field knowledge that can like make it happen for you so well. But now they sign up for that and you say, here's my 5-Day Freedom Challenge. And now they sign up and it's all automated.
Right. Well, we did automate that one. So that one is good, but thinking about 2 things. One is the networking, where I have these leads. Now I have to come home. I send an email. It was nice to meet you. Just as a reminder, this is what we talked about. When might this be convenient for you? All that stuff. And I would love if that was automated. So because sometimes it takes me a while to get to these. If I don't do them instantly as soon as I get back from the event, which I do try to do. But still, it's just like you said. I just wrote about this, that people reduce their value down to ridiculous levels because they're not separating what their tasks per day into things that are worth their time and furthering their goals. So yeah, I get it.
Well,
now I really do want a QR code to get them to sign up for the newsletter so that I can get that, collect all those emails instead of grabbing cards and having to do it manually.
Well, here's something that you are writing another book, and I was gifted the opportunity to read the first chapter, which I really loved. And because she probably doesn't believe that I read it, I'm going to pull a story out of this. And it was talking about, this is a book that is going to be one of those books that's like The Secret. So it's not, and again, I don't say that lightly. It's going to be something that was going to change. All of a sudden, somebody's going to say, Oprah is going to say, and I want to bring on Leslie Spohr, who wrote this book, who's changing the game for business owners. But here's something that we are all plagued with as entrepreneurs. No one can do it better than me, so I should do it myself. And you wrote a story about when you realized all of a sudden one day you are mopping floors and making beds and doing things. You're like, hold on, time out. This is not who I am. This is not why I got into business. Tell us about that a little bit, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, you get where you wear all the hats, right? You wear all the hats in a business, especially when you first get started. You really don't feel like you want to spend money to delegate into other places, which is, by the way, a mistake, but you don't always want to do that. So you end up doing everything. You're doing all the invoicing, you're doing all of the marketing creation, you're doing all the website management, you're making all the phone calls and going to all the networking meetings and everything. And even in my case, mopping the floors of my office because it needed to be done, And so it was just one more thing on my list of things to do. And one day I thought to myself, wow, my time, I mean, I can get a $15 an hour person or less to mop these floors, and I can use that time to further the business instead of, I mean, I think about this all the time. Every time I hit that wall, small business owners, we all hit a wall every couple of years. It says, what the hell was I thinking? Why didn't I just keep a W-2 job? It would have been so much easier, right? How many times have you thought that, right? I've been in business 20 years, and I bet you I've thought of it 20 times.
My mantra is I'm now totally unemployable.
It's right. And so, well, now I'm too old. Nobody's going to hire me now. But I thought, if I just if I got a nighttime, in the beginning I would think, oh, I should get a part-time job, help supplement my income. And then I'm thinking, why would I do that? Why not take those hours at that time, like $12 an hour, and instead do something where I can earn $100 or $200 an hour? I mean, that's crazy. And so I hired a housekeeper or janitorial service and got somebody to do the floors for me. And that freed me up to go do more things. Same thing with a bookkeeper.
Well, wait a minute. And what immediately in your book you said, when I looked at the floors, they were done better than you did them?
Yeah. Yeah, of course, because that's the professional. That's somebody that knows how to do floors.
Yeah.
So, I mean, not that I can't do that. I cleaned houses once upon a time too. But the point is that your time as a entrepreneur, did I say it right? Yeah. Entrepreneur. I can't say that word. That your time is better spent doing the things that further your business goals.
Yeah.
And to that end, you need to be clear on what tasks you have every day that do further your goals, because it's easy to get, shiny objects, squirrel, it's like, oh, because as business people that have the entrepreneurial mindset see opportunity everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So we really do. I mean, I met a lady once who was, she was a Mormon. And the only reason I say that is because she worked with a food prep store, and they were stocking and selling freeze-dried goods for emergencies or for shelf-stable food, right?
Okay.
Because there's a lot of that. The Mormons are so, not that I'm one way or the other about Mormons, but they are very family focused and they take care of everybody and in their community. And so they had a lot of this food things. And instantly when I saw these freeze-dried strawberries and freeze-dried corn and all these things, I thought, oh my God, that would be perfect in California because we have earthquakes, right? And so having this shelf-stable freeze-dried products available in your home, assuming that the earthquake does not take out the closet where they're stored, they would be really, really a good thing here. So instantly I wanted to buy in and start selling this product. And then I went, wait, that is not my path. That is not my happy path. I need to stick with what I am doing and not get sidetracked. And it's easy. What's my mantra to you all the time?
Stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane, right? Because aside to everybody's watching, Jeff is the king of shiny objects. So you got to keep an eye on him, or he will run off.
She thinks I'm the king of shiny objects because I review everything. It doesn't mean I eat the fruit. I just investigate the fruit and say, will this make my boat go faster? If not, it's jettisoned. It's back in the lake.
But you have to find a way to make your boat go faster all the time, using your metaphor.
You have to.
Well, and it's tricky because AI, which is your area of expertise and automation, is changing so fast. I mean, literally from one day to the next, there's a new app, there's a new AI option, there's a new tool. It's so fast. Yeah. Remember when the internet first came out? It was like that.
Yeah.
The internet was really fast too.
Well, it became really fast when it went to open source, right?
Yeah.
When it was closed source, it was like it was a slow moving thing, but it allowed to create the foundation. Before we go further, I just want to mention when you talk about the early days of your career, and this is true with anybody, you're going to have to do most of the stuff.
Right.
Unless you say, hey, I take out this huge SBA loan and I'm going to hire the staff right from the very beginning. Most of us are saying, hey, you know what? This started out as a side hustle and now it's turned into a business. And I'm going to have to do some of these things myself. I'm going to have to stay up late and do the bookkeeping. I'm going to have to put those cards in my database myself. I'm going to have to mop a few floors. As you get going, and I've had this conversation with so many people, is, hey, what is the first hire you have? And for me, my first hire was a virtual assistant. Even back in the days when I was when I was a real estate investor, I hired a full-time assistant so I could focus on doing deals that I was making tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars on, not the paperwork. That's who I hired it. So but at the beginning, I did all of that.
Right.
And so keep that in mind. This is an evolutionary thing, and don't feel bad if you're in a situation like, hey, you are mopping windows, mopping the floor, or you are inputting invoices. That's part of it, right? Now, on the flip side, all that, many things, I can't mop the floor for you, but some of those things can be automated that happen in the background. And I was going to mention, Leslie, it's amazing we think in terms of, well, if somebody comes in my database, I'm going to have to build this landing page and I got to build a lead magnet and I've got to put all these emails together. We're evolving into saying, you know what? I'm just going to train an AI agent to actually, whenever something comes in, it's triggered to say, oh, here comes an email or here comes a name. And I need to write a customized email for Leslie and send it out. And have a conversation going. And so, that's where it's going. So I see in the future, platforms like MailChimp and Constant Contact and Kit and all those others, I think they will be starting to be replaced by saying, I have 5 agents working in my business virtually for me, and this is their role. And they work in the cloud, but they work for me. I don't have to have those things. So I think that's the potential evolution. That's the edge we're cutting on.
Yeah. And I want one. Thank you.
Yeah.
Everything, poor Jeff, everything that he says, I want it. And I wanted it the friends and family discount because I'm cheap. But
I was going to say, it's like having that nickel and going into the candy store. Everything looks so good, but it's like, man, what do I do? And that's where you say, which one is going to make the most impact right now?
Right. And I have to tell our listeners and who are watching us that, Jeff and I, we have this really good rapport, obviously. And he is super, super good to me. I mean, super good to me.
Thank you. And vice versa.
So we take care of each other. Yesterday, we had a coaching session for Jeff, and then we ended up, it sort of wound its way back to me. That's sort of how all this goes all the time. I just feel selfish. I don't know.
I think there's a song Adele sung that wrote and sung about that. I was like, how are you doing? What's going on? Now that's enough about you. Let's talk about me.
Yeah, exactly.
And I just did because sometimes I will throw that back onto you because it's starting to get too close to me. And so I'll deflect it back to you. So you're really good about keeping your foot on my neck. I mean, keeping the focus on me.
Yeah, so, I try to keep my foot on your neck because I want you to be successful.
Yeah, thank you.
You are successful, but you could be so much bigger.
Thank you. So we're, again, we're just kind of free flowing today, but we're talking about something that got going offline about the early days of being an entrepreneur, some of the things that are going on. And we're talking about, hey, some of that guerrilla marketing, you should go out or you can take advantage of things like BNI, right? Yeah. I just happen to have that BNI or other groups that are working. I know in your 5-day challenge now, Leslie, you do something to me. When you explain to me, I'm like, are you kidding me? You did kind of their homework for them.
I did.
Tell us about what happened when you talk to somebody and they say, well, I'm having trouble generating new business. What did you do with them and for them?
Well, it doesn't matter where they are in the country. I mean, I work all over the United States. So invariably, one of the first things they say is that they either haven't allocated any funds to networking or they're not doing it. And most of the time, the reason is the same as you. They're scared. Not that you're scared, but they're scared. They don't feel like they can talk to
Now I'm
people.
scared.
But you know what I mean. Don't twist my words. I didn't say scared. Oh, I did say scared, but I didn't mean scared.
Frightened.
They're
You meant to be frightened. Frightened.
frightened is what I meant. Yes, like they're just uncomfortable. Has a better word. They're uncomfortable walking into a room where they don't know anybody and pitching their service or their product. And they don't know where to go. That's another thing. They don't know where to go. So every time after we do the day one, I go and I search for networking groups in their geographic location, depending on what their services are and what their goals are. So, because the kind of networking groups you want to hook up with vary depending on what it is you do or what service you provide. So I look up for something specific to help them, and then I create a document for them with links and everything to all of these groups and send that out to them. Everybody I do the same thing for, so that they have quite a list of opportunities to network their business. Now, I kind of freaked out one of my Tiny Challenge attendees the other day because we got to the end of day 3, and I give homework every day. And I said to her, I want you to schedule 3 speaking engagements. Right? Because she's already in some networking groups. But she's not been talking in those. So I wanted her to do a presentation similar to what we did with BNI this week.
Okay.
It didn't even have to be that long. It can be 3 to 5 minutes, just a short thing. And I said, I want you to get 3 of them, different realtor groups. And I saw her eyes get about as big as saucer. And I thought later, maybe I should have only asked her to do 1. But I figured if I asked for 3, she might get 1, right? So she was like, what? No, she's so sweet. So then she got a hurricane in her area. So I haven't seen her to do the last 2 sessions, but we're going to do them later this week, I think. And I'm excited to see if she was able to get those engagements set up, because it was a big step for her. And most of the homework is easy. What are your numbers for this? What is your obstacle for that? Simple things. But this was like hard. You got to go actually, make an effort to do something. So we'll see how she turned out. I'm excited. Remind me about it next week or the week after, and I'll tell you how it turned out.
I think it's great. It's great.
But I like giving them opportunity. Here's a list of things where you can do this. I don't know why you're shocked by that. Wouldn't you do that?
No, I'm not shocked. I think it's so important, because it's one of those things, like if you have a gym membership, you're not going to get fit by just saying, I got the membership, I'm going to go stand in the middle. I have to get into the activity. I have to push some weights. I have to run on the treadmill. I have to, if I want to get results. And, at times, Leslie, I'm guilty of that. I've consumed the video. I've consumed the book. But you know what? I didn't really learn it. I know about it, but I didn't learn it. I'm going to learn it because I'm going to do it. And when I do it, excuse the expression, I'm going to F up a few times. And that's how we sharpen our knife. Because here's the thing. Because here's the thing. If you think about putting a sharp edge on a blade, what does it require? Friction. It requires resistance. And that's how we sharpen our skills, is just like this. When you go back at episode 1, or now we're episode 30 plus, there's a different vibe in our conversation, because we have been sharpening our edges. The same thing when Leslie started her business and her second business, and she wrote a second book or third book. She just kept sharpening her edges. So if you are someone, including myself, if you're someone who just consumes and doesn't learn through doing, but the day you have to get on stage, it's going to be your first time. Start doing it right away. I'm encouraging that right away. There's 2 things I want to point out. One is, one of my dear friends, his name is Marshall Silver. He's an international speaker, been doing it for 40 years. Amazing. And he talked about something you mentioned earlier. It's like, if you have a gift or you have a product or a service that will help somebody else, you have an obligation to share that with them. And think about it on this level. If you're on a plane and you can put oxygen on somebody's face, you already have your oxygen, and you don't do it, it's the same thing. You're robbing them of future breaths that could put their business to the next level,
that's
right?
morbid, but okay.
It truly, but sometimes we need to hear it like, boy, that was a right hook. That was right between the kisser.
It's
And
the truth, yeah.
it's the truth. You have an obligation to do that. And here's the other thing. If you don't believe this much in your product or service, then you need to reassess.
But you know what? Everybody that I talk to, and you know, my challenges are one-on-one. So it's not a group, it's just one-on-one. So I can really understand that person's business, and I modify my challenge depending on what they're doing, right? Because otherwise, how can I help them? I can't give them a cookie cutter thing. I have to give them a unique, genuine experience, each one of them, which is
Right.
I absolutely love doing. What were we talking about? I lost my train of thought because I was thinking about loving doing that.
About you have an obligation.
Oh, yeah. You have to think that you are giving them something of value. And all of the people that I work with believe in their business and they want to do that. I have not yet run across somebody who said, I'm not sure if this is the right thing for me. They're really gung ho on doing it. So but they're like you, they're uncomfortable walking into a space where there's people they don't know. To me, that's probably the most exciting space you can walk into, because here's 150 people you don't know. These are 150 opportunities to build my business or to share what I do with them so they can benefit from it. You know, that's how I look at it. And so
Yeah.
I've always been able to, even though I too am an introvert, I can actually walk in and say, oh my gosh, I want to share this. And enthusiasm is probably 90% of it. If you are enthusiastic about what you're talking about and you listen, right, which I don't do with you, but what you listen,
I do a lot of listening, folks.
typical female, always right in my mouth. If you do, if you do, like I'll go up to somebody, even if I don't know them, and I'll say, have we met before? You look familiar to me. I haven't seen him from Adam for any time. They don't even look familiar. But that's what I say. Have we met? You look familiar. What do you do? And they'll start telling me. And instantly you start building a relationship because they're talking about themselves. Just like we talked earlier, they need to talk about themselves because that's a human nature thing about forming a connection. Eventually they're going to say to me, and what do you do? And then I get to tell them what I do. But I never start with me because I want them to be comfortable. I want them to want to talk to me. You know, I have this guy who wants to retire. I met him 2 CDR mixers ago, and I saw him again last night. He wants to retire. He has 10 clients. He wants to transition them to executive errands, which would be great. But he's such a nice man. You know, when I talk to him, he's got an energy about him that is so positive and so sweet. And his wife, who's also there, and they work together in the mortgage industry. Super nice people. You just want to be friends with them. I could totally want to be friends with them. And so before I left last night, I said to her, you know, Gary seems like such a nice guy. She goes, he is. He really is. And I said, how long have you been together? And she said, oh my gosh, we've been together like 30 years, but we've only been married for 23, which is still a huge accomplishment. And she said that we've always worked out of the same house. We've always worked together. We may have different things we're doing, but we're always together for 30 years. We're always together. Wow. And I thought, wow, what a great thing, you know? And she was really genuinely tickled that I asked about that. And I didn't do it with an underthought of, oh, this will help me get more business or get him to transition this sooner. It was because I genuinely could see their relationship between them and what nice people they were. You know? And that's the thing about networking and going to these things is that, and building your business, is that if you are genuinely interested, if you can pay attention to the other person, get out of your own head. This is not about you. This is about them. You know, and I have had situations, by the way, where I've asked this question and then they never ask about me. And you know what?
That's okay.
Yeah, because next time they will.
Yeah,
And if they don't, then they're not the person I want to work with anyway, right?
that's
If
right.
if they're so, some of them are either narcissistic, some people, or they are in their own head so deeply, or in desperation trying to build their own business that they don't understand the proper way to network, in my opinion.
Well, everybody, Leslie, in defense of both sides, everybody arrives at those meetings or wherever you meet with them in their own stuff, right? And we don't know where they're at,
Right,
right?
that's true.
Like you're showing up, and knock on wood, whether you went to the meeting or not, it made no difference financially for you. Like, it's not going to change your life, but you
Right,
went with a real open heart, open mind, and a genuine caring for what you were doing, and that made a
right.
huge difference. Some people go there, like you say, that, you know what, they maybe like got their third reminder that their car bill is overdue and they really need to
Or they
put
have a
something
sick kid
together.
at home or something. Yeah,
Exactly. So we don't know. So it's like that old saying is like, until you've walked a mile in their shoe, let's not judge them. Let's just be with them. And it may be one of those things, Leslie, when you ask questions for them, of them, it may be exactly what they needed at
I
that
agree.
time. It's
I
that
agree.
medicine, and it had nothing to do with business, but it's something that says, wow, I needed someone to ask me because it's not happening. So I think it's wonderful. But I think if we go in there like, hey, what can I give? And if I get some things, fantastic. Like, I know you go with a very specific goal, but you don't go in like, you're not going out like a sharpshooter saying, I've got to take out three particular targets. No,
No, no,
you
no,
go in
no.
there with this warm, genuine heart, and through that, and I'm going to use something you talked about, with you attract the right people
Right,
into their sphere. Like, I need to know who this person is, right? So I think
right.
that's great. Now I want to talk about the second thing. The first one was about Marshall and the whole
Oh,
idea of,
sorry.
right, you have an obligation. The second one is from Dr. Benjamin Hardy. I've been in his mastermind, or I was in a mastermind group with him for almost 2 years, and he wrote a book, 10x is easier than 2x, and he talked about linear thinking. And the reason I bring this up, Leslie, because just before we went in air, you talked about growing a part of your business and doubling the number of people. And I said, well, how long? And you're like, oh, you gave a number and you said March, right? Well, here's the thing. When we put a date on something, we generally are thinking linearly, meaning, hey, well, let me think, if I do this, it's going to take about 9 months, using it as an example. And so what happens is our brains go into, how can I not do that? What can I get in the way? But if I say, listen, Leslie, you've got 30 days to double your number of sales. Well, here's what happens. That old way of thinking no longer can apply, and you now have to start thinking way outside the box.
That's
And
true.
it may be things that are just like, you're thinking that's impossible, but that's where you need to go. So
Right.
when you're in a situation, I'm gonna recommend to people listening is, when you have something going on, think exponentially. It's like, okay, if I want to, like you say, okay, I want to grow my company 10% next year. Well, that seems like a big number. What if you 10x'd it? Could you be that same person who got you there to get you to the new place? Absolutely
Yeah.
not. You've got to
Yeah.
think and act differently. You'd have to be going to many of these meetings. You have to do many of these talks. You have to have the systems in place. In other words, like, it opens up opportunities you're going, I didn't even know existed, because you were thinking in this old, what I'm going to call it, linear path. Does
That's a
that make
really good
sense?
point. Yeah, it does. And, and it's funny because I teach this to people too, but when I apply it to myself, I do it wrong.
Mm,
Because that's how we are, right?
yeah.
Forests and trees, too close. But I absolutely see how valuable that is. And I got to thinking while you were talking about it, I've had a gift certificate program for real estate agents for probably 10 years, right?
Hmm.
And I haven't, up until now, my luck was sporadic with getting people to request them and use them and all that kind of thing. And then recently I reframed my thinking about them, and again, into this is something that is valuable to them. And why? Because they can use it as a thank you gift at closing of an escrow, and it doesn't cost them anything. I give it to them for free. Well, in the last 6 weeks, maybe a month, I have had requests for 50, 60, over 100
Wow.
gift certificates, and 10 more yesterday because I offered to give 10 to Gary to help transition his clients to
Wow.
me. So over 100, and they're being given out. I mean, Art sent 50 to his clients, 50 clients, and now he's told me last night he wants them for all the realtors he knows.
I love it.
So, I'm in my head, it's exponentially growing, this gift certificate program, which is also a grassroots marketing program, right? And if you permit me real quickly to talk about cost, because when people are trying to market their business or network their business, they're always concerned about how much is this going to cost me. So the gift certificate has a $250 value, but the cost of it to me is only about $50, say. So from a marketing perspective, this is why I don't believe in discounting for other people. Don't you listen to this part, to other people. Is that if you say, I'm going to give you, I'm going to reduce the cost of my hours to X, right? Now you've diluted the value of your services, and people are going to say, why don't you always charge that amount? If you can do it for that, why don't you always do it? But if I give 2 hours away for free, my cost is one-time flat rate of Y, and I didn't discount the rate of my services. In fact, I reinforced the rate because I told them they're getting 6 for 4, right? So you spend for 4, you get 6. That is, you can look at it like, yeah, maybe that is a discount, but not to the client. To the client, they say, this is value. She's giving me value, but my cost is way less than retail. So there's a way to look at that sort of thing is when you go to promote your business and network and offer things, you want to be aware of how much it costs, first of all. And you also want to have in your mind, I've just built in my mind the vision of everybody's going to want these. And it's already manifesting. After years of nothing, I have over 100 already in just the last month or so. So I'm really excited about it because it's a great service. And it's a benefit to the people handing them out because they get, acknowledgement for their clients. So
I think it's great. And, it's, to me, I think, because again, my mind is thinking, well, what content could support that? Because somebody thinks, okay, I have this gift certificate. Like I'm looking over on my desk, on my other desk over here, and I've got a stack of gift cards and gift certificates. There's probably $1,000 worth of those over there. And I apologize for anybody who's given me, I just haven't used them because I can't think of the right time. I think of what you do as like, I could use it for anything. Okay. And you have somebody pick up groceries. I need somebody go to Lowe's and pick something up. I need a windows washed. In other words, I would love to see you take it to the next level and say, what is the value of one of these? And almost give like this series of tips, not 100 at a time, but one at a time, just keep building value. And that would be, I can see it on social media posts of like, you're handing off the keys to your new owner and they have separation anxiety, but here's a cool gift you can give to them. And here are the top 5 things that they could use this for that would just cement your relationship. So the next time they're thinking about buying, selling, or a friend is buying, selling, you're the only name that's in their head.
Well, that's how I pitch it.
And there it is. Like here's 5 or 6 examples of what you can do, because sometimes we don't think of that because it's so like out of our normal thing. We're like, you mean you could come over and do that? You could change all the batteries. You could change all the batteries in my smoke alarms. Yeah, we can do that. Or whatever. We could change out from regular lights to LEDs, right?
Yeah.
That's part of this program. So I think when you mention it, it's like, oh, these are things I didn't think of that I was going to get Charlie on the ladder to do. I'd rather him not get up there because he's 71 years old and his right leg is still a little unstable.
Are you calling 71 old?
No, that's just an example.
Because I'm getting close. I don't really appreciate that.
It's just in pickleball today. I beat a 71-year-old. His name is Charlie, and he has a bad leg, and I picked on him. So what can I say? But I am, after this, I'm going to go over and change some light bulbs.
I should have known. Had to be pickleball related.
Yeah. So anyway, so I think these kind of things that, it's almost like saying, here's a cord of wood, but what do you need to get the wood going? You need some kindling. Your ideas are the kindling to your wood, to your
that sounds really, really personal. I'm just going to say it.
Kindling and firewood.
You need some wood.
Kindling, like if you have a cord of wood, that's a 4x8x8, and it's like, I'm going to give you some kindling, so when you bring it in the house, you try to start it.
You're making it worse.
Wow. All right, we're going to wrap it up because her mind is going in a bad direction. Leslie, I think this is. I hopefully you got some things from this, meaning our audience, because these are real things we go through. Like, should I go to these meetings? What am I getting out of it? How do I go in there? Is my service really valuable? If it's not, again, reevaluate that. You have an obligation. You have an obligation to share what you do with people if you really feel like it's going to be a game changer. If you don't think it's going to work, then I think you need to reevaluate. So,
well, 90% of this is mindset. Okay. 90% of this is I'm a big believer in manifestation and the laws of attraction and all that stuff. And I'm constantly reframing my people in the challenge I do with them, because they'll say something to me like, whatever, like you were uncomfortable going into these things. And I say, okay, let's reframe this. Let's look at it this way. And so I've done that with lots of different objections with them, because a lot of it's just mental, and the thing is, I knew this. I'll tell you a quick story because we have a couple of minutes. So I knew this lady. She had been a hairdresser for a long time. And then she went into graphic design. And she actually created it was amazing, this catalog of groupings of like gift certificates, appointment cards, brochures, like a whole setup kit for a new esthetician or a new hairdresser, right? So it'd be perfect to go to somewhere like the beauty college and talk to parents about, this is a great graduation gift. Give your kids this is what I was counseling her on, how to promote this, right? And so I challenged her to get a speaking engagement at the beauty school to talk to these young adults about starting their business and using these packages. And I said, and remember, they're going to look at you like an expert, and you are, right? Mm-hmm. Because you've done this. You've been where they're trying to get to. And she went into panic mode because I said, you're the expert. She's like, I'm no expert. And I said, but you are. Look at what you just created. And all your years of service and all the things this is their goal in life. This is where they want to be. But the word expert scared her. So when you tie that back to what we've been talking about, networking, when you walk into these networking groups, you are the expert in what you do. Okay. And I don't care what you do, but whatever your offering is, you're the expert in that. And only you can sell it. Only you can be enthusiastic about it and happy about it. And everybody who's there is there to have a good time. They all know the purpose is the networking part of it, but nobody's judging anybody for anything. And so, you just have to remember you are the expert, talk with enthusiasm, and make it a goal to set out for X amount of leads. And then have fun after that. It's not that hard.
That's it. That's all I've got, Leslie.
Your mind went away when I was talking about that. Are you twisted?
I'm exhausted. No, I'm just exhausted. I'm exhausted. This has been I think this has been kind of what I'm going to call freestyle. If you ever watch that in the Olympics, the downhill skiers, they're just freestyling, and they can do some things you're like, oh my gosh. And I think today, hopefully, we delivered some oh my gosh moments that you said, I got to write that down, or maybe I'll go back and re-listen to this and take advantage of this. Yeah. I do encourage you, before you guys scoot out of here, that Leslie has this program, and it's a 5-day freedom challenge. And I put the link on the screen, and I encourage you. She only does a very limited number of these. So once you go to this link, it has you fill out a form and then look at the calendar and pick a date, because and you want to get in there because, again, very limited. But it's 5 days of transformational coaching. And here's the thing I want to personally leave with. I'm going to leave with this, is if you arrive, you're a certain person. You can no longer be that person if you expect changes. You have to be someone else. Most of us want to say, I'll change when my conditions change. As my grandma says, that's bass-ackwards.
That's right.
I have to be that person now, and then my environment will change. My conditions will change. My opportunities will change when I start being that person. So, Leslie, back to you. I'm going to close and say, hey, thank you all for joining us.
Yeah, make sure you subscribe, like, share this. I used to get annoyed when people would say that on videos I would watch, but now I know the importance of it. We want to get this message out to as many people as possible. There are so many small business owners who are struggling or who don't know what they don't know. So please, like, share. All the feedback I've gotten so far on people that have watched this have really enjoyed it. So I hope you do too.
Great. All right, guys, gals, I think that's all we have, guys or gals. We're going to see you next week on the
My puppy's not here.
Twisted, Bent, and Exhausted Entrepreneur Podcast. Take care.
Bye, you guys.